welcome to another episode of the Buckle Bomb Show here on Bomb Media Productions. I'm your host, Bobby. I'm so happy to be here to talk professional wrestling with you once again. I am joined, as always, by my broadcast partner, Anthony Round. Tony, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, brother. Let's open up this edition of the Buckle Bomb Show by allowing me to ask you a question. Did you leave out your juice and munchies for RVD this week? Because after this week in professional wrestling, I seem to be in a little bit of a haze.
Well, it is 420 week. It was just a few days ago. And that's actually a little bit of a subject that we'll be talking about later on down the line in the show. But we will kick this right off. We're going to do a lot of what we did last week. We both liked the way that show went with us just talking about, on a wrestling show, actually talking about the wrestling that went on TV. So we're going to kind of do that again and go through everything that happened this week on TV. So we'll start off with Raw, and that opened up with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, once again, with a nice little promo. It was kind of like, okay, we're rehashing some of the stuff we've gone over already, I think, the last week. But it ended with Seth Rollins challenging Cody Rhodes to a match against a surprise opponent of his choosing. How do you think the opening of Raw went?
You know, I'm not going to lie to you. It feels very awkward saying this, especially for as much as last week I was hyping this up. But if we're going to start every week with Cody and Seth in the ring, I'm an old school country fan, Bobby. I need a little less talk and a lot more action right now, I feel like.
Well, I mean, that's WWE. They always start with an in-ring promo segment. And right now, Cody's, I guess they're trying to build him up as their number one babyface, as they should. And they've got this going on. I guess you got Drew McIntyre there as well. It's him and Cody, I think, are your two number one guys.
Actually, it's Bobby Lashley listed as number
that's
one.
Right. That's right. Bobby Lashley as well, though he hasn't been around. I don't remember seeing him on this show. But, you got a good feud going here with Seth Rollins, as over the top as Seth Rollins can be. And as much as I hate that, it's just too much for me. Seth Rollins is absolutely fantastic in the ring. So there's no denying what they've got going there. From there, it went on to, and I'll scroll this down a little bit here. WWE compiling everything for me. Sasha Banks and Naomi defended their tag team titles against Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. And Sasha Banks and Naomi successfully defended their titles here. And, of course, it ended with what we saw coming, but the breakup of one of my favorite tag teams in the WWE right now, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, with Rhea seemingly turning heel and attacking Liv Morgan. What do you think about this?
I actually owe you an apology on this one, because this was something that definitely sidestruck me, maybe flabbergasted me a little bit. All I know now, though, is because of your correctness, we're going to get to see Rhea Ripley pin Liv Morgan the way she does. And oh, how good does it feel?
Sure. There is that. I'm down to see Rhea Ripley pin anyone, though she got pinned this week. I do want to know, I'm happy to see Rhea Ripley. As much as I like this tag team, I'm happy to see her go back to being a single star. I think that's where she can shine the most. And as a heel, no less, I'm really excited to see what they do with her as a heel. Do you think, she's been rumored to be a part of the Edge and Priest and kind of make that a stable? Do you see that happening, or do you think they keep her separate from that as her own thing as a heel?
To me, it makes sense. Let her join what this new Brood thing is. The House of Black didn't work when it was just Malachi Black and Brody King. There's certain tag teams that need extra members added onto it for it to be viable. I mean, if we go back to the original Brood and there was no Christian or no Gangrel, I don't think that would have been as, over as it was at the time. Plus adding the female factor where your stable can actually build up some wins against female talent, mixed tag team matches.
Right.
I like the idea, and she already has the aesthetic that's going to fit in perfectly with it. So why not?
Yeah, I'm of two minds on this. I agree with everything you said. I think she's a good fit for that. That can really work if she gets recruited by them in some form or fashion within the next couple of weeks or are coming out of the Backlash pay-per-view. But I also am such a big fan of Rhea Ripley. I want to see her on her own, pushing for a women's title or in that main event scene somewhere with the Raw Women's Championship. We'll see what happens. It could go either way, I think.
Now, with her being in this new faction, though, it doesn't necessarily negate her from being able to do all those things.
No.
If anything, it's going to make her one of the top heels in the company because you're always going to have Edge lurking somewhere. You're always going to have Priest lurking somewhere. A lot like when Lita was on that women's championship run, when Edge was on his WWE championship run, when they were a thing back in the day.
It can do that for sure, but there's something to be said about her just being on her own, too, that I think she'd be really good at. Certainly, there are pluses and minuses, I think, to both. That's why I think I'm of two minds. I'm just interested to see where they go with it, because I'm a big fan of hers, either way.
Fair enough.
All right, and from there, it went into, there was a Sonya Deville and Bianca Belair segment between the two of them. Sonya Deville came out, and wow, she has got some heat. That crowd did not like her at all, and I was surprised at how much heat she got. She might have gotten booed more than anyone else I saw on the show that night. Bianca Belair comes out, huge pop. She's over. She's a great big star. A little back and forth. But Sonya Deville's a WWE official, so hey, you can't touch me, or I'll get you fired. And Bianca Belair, you can see there in the picture, lifts her up, but then ends up setting her down. And that led to another segment later on where she was fined $1. What did you think of all this between Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville?
I got a kick out of the dollar fine, but my God, Sonya Deville is rapidly approaching her way to eclipsing X-Pac heat with this whole storyline they have going on right now. And I'm going to be honest with you, I love it. I want more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and remember, I think I told you this last week or the week before, Sonya Deville had talked about when they wanted to put her into this, GM or WWE official role. She wasn't thrilled about it. She wants to be in the ring. But Vince McMahon told her, hey, just trust me. And we're seeing the fruit come to bear right now. It's really worked. She is hot.
And even like I said, this might be my crow eating episode because I believe last week I told you, the authority figure that comes out and puts himself in the championship position is played out and it's old hack at this point. But somehow they're making it a way to seem fresh and revigorated again. So good on Sonya Deville. And, let's see where this is going. I mean, and credit to Bianca Belair, too, because, you're nothing in dance without your partner.
Absolutely. And she's a good partner to have. I don't even remember this match happening. I didn't write it down. I must have, because I was working while I watched Raw. So this must have been a very short squash match. I don't even know who Jeff Brooks is. Vera Mahan defeated Jeff Brooks. What happened here? What do you think of this?
It was legitimately a blink and you miss it match. Veer Mahan.
That's what I must have done. Yeah.
Literally just meat grinder. They're building up one hell of a monster with him right now.
All right. So from there, we should be going into. All right. I must have just missed a whole. Oh, you know what? I was watching it on Hulu, and I think Hulu cut some stuff out. So that's why some of this isn't lining up. So
not a good look. If you're cutting out your big deadly monster you have coming in that you made us wait months for. Ugh.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like here, that you've got Ezekiel defeated Chad Gable via a DQ. I didn't see this either, so this was cut out from Hulu as well.
I also did not see this match.
Said he passed his lie detector test with flying colors and was rewarded with his first ever match against Chad Gable.
Dude,
go ahead.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a minority on this one. I love where this is going with the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Like, first off, anything that's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on screen together in any capacity, whether it be feuding or as a tag team, I'm in. Sign me up, 100%. But in the beginning, again, very against this whole Ezekiel Elias kind of, insulting the intelligence of the audience kind of deal. But the more I'm like watching it and getting into it, the more I am here for it, because this is literally one of those things that's driving Kevin Owens berserk. And oddly enough, this storyline is now transcended just WWE, with wrestlers from across the wrestling world getting involved in this whole thing, going back and forth with Kevin Owens on Twitter, whether or not this is actually a man named Ezekiel.
Well, right. It's WWE sort of lampooning themselves a little bit here, I think. Because I think the reason you rolled your eyes last week or the week before was, here we got Elias, we're bringing him back, he's clean shaven now, he's got a new name, and that's just going to be what it is going forward. But they're actually using that. Like, obviously, this is Elias pretending to be his younger brother Ezekiel, and that's part of the story that's being told. And it's a little bit, tongue-in-cheek with how the WWE likes to rename all their stars and change things up that way. So, kind of brilliant. Then we get, and I did watch this. This was on there, obviously. Street Profits defeated RK Bro after the Usos' music played, but they didn't come out. It was enough to distract RK Bro for the Street Profits to get the win here. What do you think of this match?
I'm starting to notice a little bit of a pattern, and I don't like where it's going. Fortunately, my idea of what was happening was kind of curtailed thanks to SmackDown. But you notice, if somebody's taking the pin or getting their ass whooped in an RK Bro match, it's usually Riddle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, if it becomes too much of a pattern, you might want to watch out, because that limited edition tee might have been a little bit more limited edition for other reasons than what we thought.
I mean, they just did that, though, on the same show with Liv and Rhea, where Liv was responsible. Even though Rhea took the pin, Liv sort of got knocked out and wasn't there, and they kind of just did that. I don't think they have plans to break up RK Bro yet. It doesn't seem like they have plans. They're not planting any seeds, it seems like to me. But
yeah, not that they're going to do it right away, but they're going to start throwing something out there, especially depending on what happens with Backlash.
Well, I was a little surprised the Street Profits went over without direct Uso interference. We've got this match at WrestleMania Backlash to unify the titles. Do you think the Street Profits somehow actually get into that match and make it a, God forbid, a 3-way tag team match?
Absolutely not.
I hope not, because I hate 3-way tag team matches. They're the worst.
Just from my perspective, you have all these great tag teams right now. We've talked about this last week to nauseum, that tag team wrestling is back across the board. And as a company, I feel like you do yourself no favor by not having a potential number one contender on any brand. And for what it's worth right now, your top 3 tag teams in WWE are RK Bro, the Usos, and the Street Profits. And it's okay to let the Street Profits get one over on a non-title match. They're going to go over against Alpha Academy. They're going to go over versus New Day now that the New Day doesn't have as much steam anymore. So, no harm, no foul. You're actually hyping up your next challengers depending who the winner may be at Backlash.
Okay. And that led into, I remember it's not listed on here, but there was a segment, a backstage promo with Edge and Priest, Damian Priest. What do you think of this promo? I actually, myself, I haven't been enjoying too much this version of Edge. He's been going a little showy and a little too much, and it started that way again with this, but he eventually settled into it, and I actually, by the end, I enjoyed this bit with Edge and Priest. What do you think of it?
Yeah, going back to the build-up to the feud with him and AJ, I was very confused about what his gimmick was. He felt kind of like Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate. I don't know if you remember that movie or not.
That's one of my favorite movies, actually. Yeah, I love that movie.
But, during the backstage segments when he's like sitting at the table and the light swinging above his head, and that's the only lighting, and he's in the suit. Like, you're waiting for him to just change at any minute. Then the entrance of WrestleMania, we started seeing a little bit more what this character is actually going to be about. And much like you, I usually do stand for anything that Edge does, but this, just for whatever in the beginning, wasn't clicking. And then, you had Damian Priest and you realize what potential's actually there and you get really hyped for it. And then WWE, in typical WWE fashion, lets the lights go down and that ends a match. And now you're not so hyped on it. So for me, this whole Edge and Damian Priest thing, I want it to be good. I want it to be great, but WWE's just let me down so many times before, and my heart's not ready to get broken yet again.
Well, speaking of the lights, that led into a segment later on with AJ Styles. He was back in the locker room, got interviewed, and then the lights went down and came back up, and then there was Edge and Damian Priest for a beatdown of AJ Styles. So they're still doing the supernatural lights thing, which I roll my eyes at, but, it's what WWE does these days.
I don't mind it, but at least explain it. You didn't have to do that when Bray Wyatt came back as The Fiend, because you had something leading up into that told you the story of The Fiend, especially coming from Bray Wyatt. We knew what Bray Wyatt was when Bray Wyatt came to us on our television screens, right? Mm-hmm. So he had that power leading into it. Just don't, show us a fucking stick and say, except that we have this stick now.
Well,
give us the story.
I will say I think they did sort of explain it in this promo, at least with Edge before the beatdown, because I think Edge said something along the lines of, "This guy's always been within me," going all the way back to the Brood 20 years ago. But he's more dangerous and he's all this. I think what that's saying is this power has always been in me. I just never used it. I never let it out. Now I'm letting it out, and I can do these things. I guess that's kind of the explanation. I don't know.
So is the explanation going to be that because of The Miz, this is where we're at? Because of The Miz?
Is that if when he first came back with the Brood? That's when he started
doing the Bloodbath and the Brood, Alter Bridge
theme song. Not the Bloodbath, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Which, by the way, greatest remix to an entrance theme song of all time is that Brood Alter Bridge remix. Whoever's doing WWE's theme music now needs a raise, because that was just chef's kiss.
That one's all right. I will disagree with the raise for the guy or the people that do the music, because I think a lot of their themes are pretty generic lately. But yeah, that one's all right. After that, we had I almost said Austin Theory, but he's no longer Austin, even though he comes out to a song that's the A-Team, and he's still got AT on his trunks, and his finishing move is called the A-Team or something like that, isn't it? But he's just Theory now. There's no more A, it's just T. Theory and Finn Balor battled for the U.S. title. Theory won. What'd you think about this? A lot of hubbub online.
I hate to say this. If somehow this gets to Finn Balor, let your contract expire. For the love of God, dude. This has been my biggest gripe about World Wrestling Entertainment since 2016. Not just with Finn Balor, but with the NXT roster call-ups in general. The closest you've had to an actually good debut with an NXT roster member was Finn Balor. Finn Balor gets hurt in a match, winning the WWE Universal Championship. No fault of his own. And hey, it's nothing against Seth Rollins. Shit happens. That's the reason why the Buckle Bomb's not used so much anymore, so we got to hijack it as a name for a show. But with that being said, I mean, the dude never got his rematch for the Universal Championship. His big program that he had going with Bray Wyatt led to Bray Wyatt dressing in drag, and then we never saw anything come of it, which was kind of weird. And then you factor in that now he's went back to NXT to find his bearings, and now he's mid-card at best, just kind of a placeholder for the United States Championship, which, you know, we've talked about it. This is a championship that doesn't necessarily need to still be around. So yeah, and I'm happy Theory got it, because this is, you know, like we discussed, Raw's version of the Intercontinental Championship. It's kind of clear that they were going to put the rocket on Theory's back and strap him to the moon. But yeah, just you're burying one of the best talents that you have in that locker room in the process.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you and a lot of online sentiment here. Look, Finn Balor was the champion. They're pushing Theory to the moon right now, I think, and for good reason. And you've kind of got this Vince McMahon behind him deal going on. It was time to put a belt on him. And the Raw belt is the U.S. Championship that happened to be held by Finn Balor. I don't see a problem with this. Finn Balor is still a big deal. I don't think the WWE sees him any less than that. Certainly, you'd like to see him get used more than he has been. But to me, Finn Balor, the belt doesn't, especially the U.S. belt, doesn't make or break him. So they could still do a lot of good stuff with Finn Balor. I'd like to see him get into a feud of some sort here soon. Maybe a rematch with Theory for the title. They can go back and forth a little bit here would be nice. Going into Backlash, maybe we can get a mid-card belt. Now that there's only one world championship, maybe we can get a mid-card belt or two on a pay-per-view.
Or maybe, and hear me out, and this is complete swerve from what I was ever thinking I would say about this. Finn Balor's got that little bit of a demon in him, right? Maybe there could be an explanation there about why Edge and Damian Priest have this newfound power where they can just make shit happen because they're tapping into Finn Balor's demon. And that turns out to be the puppet master in this the whole time.
A Finn Balor heel turn, I could get down with it. It'd be something new. And it'd be something interesting with Finn Balor. I would be game for that, absolutely. All right.
Definitely new for the American audience.
Yeah, right. We'll move on from there. Next, we had... Okay. I'm just going to read you what I wrote down on my notes as I was watching this. I said, double wedding, ? R-Truth officiating, ? I have no idea what is going on. And then I quoted R-Truth because it popped me. He said, because they... And to be honest, I started actually kind of getting entertained by whatever was going on when they started switching out who was standing with who, and it went to Dana Brooke and... why am I blanking on her name right now? Tamina Snuka. Dana Brooke and Tamina Snuka were ended up standing side by side like they were both going to marry each other for a second. And R-Truth had a line, "Y'all going to get me fired. I don't know if that's even PG," which popped me. But then they ended up going, and then I realized, when they all started jumping on top of each other and pinning each other, and a ref came in out of nowhere, like an RKO, and it was all 24/7 title BS that I don't care about. But it was an entertaining little segment. So the last thing I wrote was, 24/7. But what did you think about all these shenanigans with the double wedding?
And look, for as much as I have a disdain for the 24/7 title, because we know this is the PG version of the Hardcore Championship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's a way to get R-Truth on television, R-Truth, K-Quick, Ron the Truth Killings, whatever you know him as, do it. I love the guy.
Yeah.
He has his uses. He's great for comedic timing. Like, if you want to cut that tension, what was that? Heading into Money in the Bank, R-Truth comes out between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. So he's going to kick everybody's ass in the Royal Rumble, and Paul Heyman sets him straight, and it popped everybody at ringside, including Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude's talented. He can rap. He can make you laugh. He can wrestle. Doesn't look his age at all. That dude
No.
has the fountain of youth. So yeah, anything R-Truth does, I'm here for it. I mean, the segment was silly, whatever. It's bread and butter, like filler for WWE. So
It was.
I'll give it to him.
And again, normally I like my wrestling a little more real and serious, but the segment overall was fine until the end with all the crazy 24/7 pinning stuff, which I guess that's what that title is. When you and I both don't like that sort of deal, but yeah, this was actually entertaining. I think with all these people. And I think it was it Dana Brooke that ended up still with the title at the end of everything and walked away?
The thing
carried away
is
by Snuka?
They get so convoluted in these 24/7 pinfalls that it really doesn't matter who walked away with it, because by next week it could be Stoner Claus. Who knows?
Well, and that's part of why I'm sure you and I think it's so stupid. Within kayfabe, what sense does it make to be fighting for that title when it goes through so many people so fast? Why would you want it? So when
I think about this title, what I can think about is being a little kid, seeing Crash Holly go down a slide into a ball pit at FAO Shorts, thinking that was really cool. And then I also take in consideration that I was 8 years old and anything with a slide in a ball pit was going to pop me. And that maybe this is something that there's just that age gap difference that we do have to admit WWE is going to do sometime, being peachy programming.
They're for a very broad audience, so their comedy is going to be more broad. Their drama is going to be more broad. It's for not just the younger audience, but also the older audience. They skew older than AEW in some ways as well, whereas AEW is very specifically in that, late teenager to, early 30s range. WWE's got an audience, they've got people in their 50s and 60s watching them. So along with the little kids. So you're absolutely right.
For as much as, I give WWE shit about what they're doing, one thing, and even myself personally, I have to start doing is keeping that in mind when I think, why the hell are they doing all this wacky shit? But it's because, like you said, they have an audience to keep engaged from the age of 5 all the way up to 85. So I think that is a thought that is lost on a lot of the internet wrestling community as a whole.
Well, yeah, fandom, they just want what they want. And if they don't get it, they get mad. And they can't see sometimes the reason why things are happening. We'll move on from there. The next thing I wrote down may not be the next thing because of... Oh, nope, it is the next thing. All right, we go into the main event. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. Decent little match until Seth Rollins came down, got involved, and then it ended with... I think Kevin Owens got tossed out of the ring by Cody Rhodes. Seth Rollins was there, and he said, "Get your fat ass back into the ring." And KO's like, "What'd you say?" "Fuck it, this is your match. I'm done. I'm out of here." And he left, and Cody won by countout. What do you think about the end of Raw here?
Man, it's so hard to actually put into words what I was feeling watching that, just because. Again, not telling Kevin Owens to leave like I'm telling Finn Balor. Actually, I'm not even calling him Finn anymore. I'm going to start calling him Ferg or Deville because he deserves better. But Kevin Owens, in this instance, actually deserved to have that match with Cody go to completion. I know the storyline they're building. I know the reasons behind it. But, man, you go out there. First off, Kevin Owens is one of the best ad-libbers in WWE. Perfect example, his rants that he goes on in the ring when he thinks that there's no cameras on him because of promos or commercials or things of that nature. But just in general, kick a man while he's down with this whole fucking weight situation and all that stuff. But honestly, though, I am excited to actually see the day where Cody and KO have an all-out one-on-one match. No backstage bullshit, no interferences. But Yeah, it's kind of shitty they had to sacrifice KO to continue the story of Cody and Seth.
Well, I don't think they sacrificed KO. I think it was KO going, I don't care about this at all. Just get me out of here. Especially after you call me a fat ass. I got no problem with that. I don't think that was a sacrifice of Kevin Owens. If anything, it made him look a little stronger because he wasn't doing Seth Rollins' bidding. He wasn't his lackey. But so I got no problem with that. I do agree with you. Eventually, seeing a real Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes feud will be great, fantastic. I don't think we'll get that terribly soon. I think we'll get some matches. Right now, obviously, it's all about Rollins and Cody Rhodes, though. We'll move on from there. That was the end of Raw. We'll move and jump over to SmackDown. And that started off with a contract signing for Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey. And, of course, Adam Pearce and Drew Gulak were involved in this. And I do remember seeing a tweet that said from Ronda Rousey after the show, sometime this morning or last night I saw it, was, "Oh, good job, WWE. Another successful and safe contract signing," or something along those lines. It was pretty hilarious. But, of course, it would break down into them attacking each other with a kendo stick, Ronda Rousey getting the upper hand, Drew Gulak being a goof. What'd you think about the opening of SmackDown here?
You know, for what it's worth, I think one of the best tweets to come out of the segment was Adam Pearce tweeting directly after, maybe having an apprentice wasn't such a great idea. It's a pull-apart contract signing. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? I mean, while the visual at the end was cool of Ronda Rousey having Gulak in the armbar.
Yeah.
I mean,
poor
dude.
I did think we just talked about it on Raw a few days before that. You know, Bianca Belair assaulted a WWE official and you had to fine him, right? Drew Gulak now as an apprentice of Adam Pearce. Doesn't that technically make him an official? Shouldn't
we're
Ronda Rousey get fined?
Our storylines. I did not think about that.
Because that was all I thought about. Because I watched SmackDown right after Raw, so it was all fresh and right there in my head. And I'm like, oh well, they're contradicting themselves. I guess you could always, headcanon. Oh yeah, she got fined. It's just not public, but whatever.
Ronda Rousey paid a goat. Charlotte Flair paid a robe. Let's move on.
Right. After that, we got Xavier Woods against Butch. And Butch having this... I thought it. And I'm like, ooh, they could call him this. And then I actually later on saw a headline from last week that I'd missed where Pat McAfee actually called him this and realized they can't call him this. But it would be the perfect nickname for him, the Rabid Wolverine. And apparently Pat McAfee said that live on SmackDown last week, called Butch that, and it would be the perfect nickname for him if it didn't bring along other things with it. But, so I doubt that can be used. But,
well, let's not forget about the nickname Michael Cole gave to him this week.
What was that?
A petulant little child.
All right.
Which goes into what I was saying. This angle is Dennis the Menace.
But Butch would get defeated by Xavier Woods here, and of course would, after all his anger, all for naught. Anything to add to that?
I mean, I hate how they just gave Xavier Woods the finisher of the back roads, which is just a schoolboy roll-up. I don't know, man. I feel like certain things are running its course right now with WWE. I feel like they're at a loss. They don't know what to do with the New Day. It seemed like they had a plan when Big E was coming back in. Now they can't even figure out what to do with their King of the Ring winner, actually. And my opinion on this whole Butch thing stays the same. So, fingers crossed.
All right, we'll move on to Gunther in a squash match against a local jobber, Teddy Goods. Anything to add about this?
Going back to my point earlier about NXT call-ups, you have somebody who's as world-renowned as Gunther, and similar situation to what they had with Finn Balor's call-up. Maybe Gunther wasn't in the biggest stable that somehow turned itself into an internationally recognizable brand, but nonetheless, if you paid attention to any wrestling outside of the WWE atmosphere, you knew who Walter Gunther was when he signed with NXT UK. He was actually a part of the signings that basically crippled the UK's independent wrestling scene. So he is one of those guys who, in my opinion, should have been a candidate, have him come in, have him going for the Intercontinental Championship or something right out the gate. But instead, we're getting these weird squash matches. And we saw how that went with Braun Strowman in the beginning when they were trying to change his gimmick up. I don't know. I don't have any hope in something actually good coming from these squash matches. And with full transparency here, we talked about this a little bit before we started filming. For my money's worth, at least, SmackDown this week was a very subpar SmackDown. Even with my excitement saying from last week how much I love the Lumberjack match, but we're going to get to that momentarily.
Yeah, we'll get there. I have no problems with squash matches against, a jobber. Those are tried and true formula that goes back decades in wrestling. You put a match like that on TV to get the guy you want over and make him look good. It can still work as long as you follow through right and you follow through correctly. I think it worked for Ryback several years ago. It made him a pretty big star when he was kind of, and people started chanting Goldberg at him, but he was just a guy that you wanted to go out there, feed me more. He'd get a couple of big moves in, get the pin, and scream and be gone. And people ate it up. So obviously you're not doing that kind of squash match here and that kind of build. But it's a thing, if you do it right, can work.
Let me ask you a question. Whatever happened to Ryback?
He is still around, kind of.
He's hawking nutritional supplements on the internet, taking jabs at much more successful.
I was going to say, yeah, he's a thorn in the side of a lot of people, but for the most part, I think people just ignore him at this point. I certainly do. But he was over for a bit. He main evented a pay-per-view against CM Punk for the world title, and main evented a Raw that I went to for the world title against Punk,
and gave us one of the greatest podcast interviews of all time indirectly.
Right. That was where we really started to realize, this Ryback character, maybe he's not so great. We'll move on to that. We had Riddle against Jey Uso. Riddle will go over here. What do you think about this match?
This one actually conflicted me because this was one of the very few matches I liked from SmackDown this week.
Yeah, it was a good match.
This was Jey Uso, right? I get them confused.
Yeah, this was Jey.
All right.
Jimmy was on the outside.
So, I believe it was Jimmy that they had. No, it was Jey Uso. Remember last year when the Bloodline was just forming and they had Jey in this position where, he was a top guy main eventer and he was one of the people who was worthy to face his cousin Roman. They had two paths to take with this match. One was plant the seed of the RK Bro breakup by having the habitual pinfall taker in Riddle taking the fall, while Jey does this on his own, makes himself look like a top guy again. And they could have built on that Jey Uso top guy storyline, which I think is something that we're probably eventually, inevitably at least, going to get back into seeing one day. Or make it look like, okay, RK Bro has a chance. There's not going to be a squash match with the Bloodline. and we're going to see RK Bro actually become the unified tag team champions. I think what they did with this kind of swerve thing here was kind of smart, in my opinion, especially for when it comes to what WWE's known to do, where they kind of just lay the most simplest formula out in front of you, and you can kind of follow the breadcrumbs from there.
Right. Yeah, I have no problem with the ending of this. I like where it led with that, where Jey had to go back and sort of apologize to Roman, to the head of the table, for losing and say he'll do better next time and sort of grovel a little bit. I like that. A little bit of world building there and storytelling. It was a very good match, and yeah, I still think this means that the Usos end up on top of the pay-per-view. I think, to me, this solidifies that even more. But we'll see.
There's one reason coming up that we will get to why I think it shows that they will not end up on top.
All right. After that, we had an in-ring promo with Sasha Banks and Naomi, and they got interrupted by Natalya and Shayna Baszler. This looks like to be your women's tag team title match at WrestleMania Backlash. What do you think of this?
Stifler's mom has got it going. Look, this whole Natalya and Shayna Baszler tag team, this seems pretty canon for Natalya at this point, to just be throwing in random ass tag teams out of the blue.
Yep.
It is what it is. WWE needs to make matches, especially for a belt that they have now, and even though any one of these four women could be a number one contender for a singles run at any point, I mean, I think Natalya is a criminally underrated female performer, but that's neither north or south at this point. So, let's just hope that they give them time to actually tell a story in this match.
For sure. Yeah, as long as they get time. We got four great performers here. Hopefully we get a good tag team match out of it and a good story. We'll move on from there, where Madcap Moss defeated Angel of Los Lotharios. What did you think of this?
Madcap Moss is still telling the same shitty jokes, even though he's supposed to be a face now. And the only reason why I told shitty jokes to begin with is because it made Baron Corbin laugh. Again, Madcap Moss, I don't understand the gimmick. Have nothing for him, nothing for Los Lotharios, because I really haven't seen much of them. Is their gimmick like a kiss cam or something like that?
It seems like, yeah, that's what I've seen in the last couple of weeks. I don't understand it either. Yeah. And Madcap Moss, I'm kind of there with you. He's got a look. I like his look, and he's got personality. He's someone that could be something eventually. You get those fucking suspenders off of him. Put him in some actual ring gear.
Why do I feel like Vince McMahon has his meat hooks deep in Madcap Moss?
Because he's got a good look. He's a Vince McMahon looking guy.
True.
All right, from there we get the Lumberjack match. Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn, your main event of SmackDown. And a lot of shenanigans. The Usos came in after Sami Zayn had a nice little ploy and came in and kind of got Roman Reigns a little mad about, and the little Will Smith reference, get my name out of their mouths. So the Usos came down, and it ended up with all the teams that were all the heels and baby faces fighting each other on the outside of the ring, which allowed Sami Zayn to once again get away. But then Adam Pearce came out and said, this isn't happening. We're going to have one more match, and this time you definitely won't be able to get away. It's a cage match, which makes me roll my eyes, because WWE cage matches, the point is to get out of the cage and run away. It's not like the old school cage matches where, I don't know, WWE doesn't build, they never did their cage matches correctly. But what do you think about this segment in the main event of Raw, the main event of SmackDown here?
Last week, I raved and ranted about how much I love a lumberjack match, and only WWE and WWE fashion can find a way to fuck it up. So, as we know, the point of the lumberjack match is to make sure they don't escape. They did the one thing that the match is not supposed to make you do. And all because the more interesting storyline that came from it, I don't know if you caught this or not, in the segment where the Usos went back and Jey had to grovel to Roman, what was the one thing Roman asked the Usos to do? Take care of Sammy, take care of RK Bro, but make sure you get yours in on Drew McIntyre.
Right.
What was the one thing that they didn't do?
Yeah.
They super kicked RK Bro and didn't do anything to Drew McIntyre. And I think this is leading to plant more seeds of disappointment with Roman.
I think, and we'll get to this. It's actually going to be one of the last things we talk about with Roman and where they're going with him for the next pay-per-view. But I think they're planting little seeds here for the future with Roman, and they got to tell a story with him in the meantime. And I think it's going to be, you're going to start maybe a little bit of frustration here over the next couple of weeks between Roman and the Usos that leads into the tag match at Backlash where they win, and now you've got a unified bloodline again. Maybe not. Maybe it goes the other way, and the frustrations keep building.
Armchair Booker here just for a moment. Jey finds a way to colossally fuck up this tag team match. You know who's been getting the old looky-loo down in NXT right now, right? Slico? I can never say his fucking name right. He's one of the NOI offspring.
Yeah, yet another.
Yeah. So, what's to say Jey doesn't fuck this match up one more time? And he gets the boot from the bloodline, and then we get a redemption storyline of him trying to make his way back into the good graces while the new NOI takes his place.
There you go. That could be something. We'll see. Certainly, you've got a ready-made stable for him, whether they're all cohesive and together, all three of them, for him to jump into right off the bat. We'll see. From there, that'll do it for the WWE this week. We'll jump over to AEW and start with Dynamite. They had a pretty good couple of shows this week. Dynamite started off with CM Punk versus Dustin Rhodes. I always love when they start the show right off with CM Punk because back before I did the show, I didn't have to watch the rest of the show. I got my CM Punk match and I was done. But I had to continue in watching so I could talk about it here. But as much as I'm enjoying AEW so far. Pretty good little match here with CM Punk and Dustin Rhodes. No surprise, I think, with the finish. No surprise that it was good, I think. Punk, certainly, you could tell that he, from his trunks to the way the match ended, to some of the moves in there, was definitely doing his best Bret Hart impersonation here. What do you think of this match?
Honestly, this is one of the more submission technical matches that I've seen CM Punk in since his return. And it was definitely something I enjoyed. Even more so, I mean, just the way it started to the finish, Dustin leaving it all in the ring, CM Punk just, giving it all he had. But the thing about that match, and it kind of overshadowed the match itself for me, was CM Punk finally getting acknowledged by Hangman Page that, we know you're in line.
Yeah, that was a nice moment after the match, knowing it looks like that might be where they're headed. We do have a pay-per-view coming up here in a short little while, so that's exciting. Well, let's talk about that. Let's expand on that for just a moment here. If they
because I just thought of something actually.
If they do Punk and Hangman Page at the next pay-per-view, who do you think goes over?
Well, I think it depends on who the IWGP Heavyweight Champion is at that time. Because remember, he's been going back and forth with Kazuchika Okada on Twitter. That's where the first seeds of the Forbidden Door pay-per-view were planted. And if I'm not mistaken, he is currently your IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So what better way to close Forbidden Door? Your AEW Heavyweight Champion, Chick Magnet Punk, versus your IWGP Heavyweight Champion, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. Just saying, man, that would be a hell of a banger of a match, and then you have the championship stroke involved with it as well.
You know what? You got my money. Though I don't like the idea of Hangman Page sort of being cast aside for that, and I think that match could be huge. Okada and CM Punk doesn't need the belts, though having the belts would make it that much bigger.
You know, I don't necessarily think it's casting away Hangman just yet, because you know there's a story that still hasn't been told yet. Whenever it is that Omega comes back at this point, you know, the rumors out there that he's definitely missing Forbidden Door. I feel like this title run's getting a little flat for Hangman, though, and if you put it on somebody new, it's going to kind of reinvigorate it. Because I think what most people are starting to see now is most of the magic with Hangman was the storyline of will he, won't he that they were telling with the Dark Order, especially after the untimely passing of Brody Lee.
Right.
So I feel like without that whole Dark Order angle, something's been missing from the character, and this championship run is starting to run very, very stale, I feel.
That being said, I get the feeling that this AEW crowd, in a match between Punk and Hangman, I think Hangman will get cheered a little bit more than Punk will.
I think we'll get that 50-50 split.
I think it'll be a little bit like this Dustin match where they're into both guys and they're cheering for both. But at the end, in that match, you knew who was going over no matter what. If you watch wrestling at all, you knew who was going over.
So hear me out real quick.
Page and Punk would be a toss up. I think they would. Go ahead.
This isn't happening at the next pay-per-view. Holy fuck! I can't believe I just now realized this. So usually before they do a Chicago show, they'll do Rampage, a live Rampage.
Yeah.
And it's usually somewhere within Chicago. If you want to make sure you have AEW's fan base supporting somebody 150%, make it in Chicago with CM Punk in the main event going for the AEW Heavyweight Championship. That crowd is going to eat, sleep, and breathe CM Punk.
And we can go ahead and move on to the next thing that they did here was make that announcement of the Forbidden Door and all they did with that, and what they did with Adam Cole and Jay White. But if you go the next pay-per-view, or the next pay-per-view in Chicago is Forbidden Door. So I don't know if you do an AEW title match between Punk and Hangman there. That's at the United Center in, what is it, June 26th.
Yeah, it's 1 month after All Out's the next pay-per-view, I believe.
Okay. So, yeah, if you're going to do it, you either do it at the next pay-per-view, or you end up waiting months before Punk gets that title shot.
Double or Nothing, my bad.
Is Double or Nothing next? Okay.
Yep.
Well, that is kind of their marquee pay-per-view. It was the first AEW pay-per-view. So
if you don't count All In, absolutely.
Right, exactly. So we'll move on to the other edge of this and what happened on TV with this Forbidden Door announcement. Tony Khan comes out, brings out the president of New Japan, but then Adam Cole interrupts on the screen. It was a little bit of a promo, and then introduces Jay White. Jay White of the Bullet Club comes out, and it seems like there's a little bit of obviously a lot of members of the Bullet Club and the Undisputed Elite go back a ways to some independence and things they did in Japan, and it looks like they're going to be teaming up together, the Bullet Club and Undisputed Elite. You texted me and seemed to be excited about this. What do you think?
Let me just clear this out for you. I'm a man who gets very excited very easily, especially when it comes to professional wrestling. My girlfriend, on the other hand, could not give a baker's fuck about professional wrestling until she met me, so she keeps up with it kind of to,
right,
make me happy, I guess. But she wears my Bullet Club hoodie because she says it's super cool looking. All right, yeah, cool. when Jay White's theme song hit and I squealed an ungodly girly sound from my mouth and she recognized the word Bullet Club on her jacket, she was like, I'm happy for you, babe. I'll take it.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. After that, we had Wardlow versus the Butcher. Of course, throughout the night, we were shown bits about Wardlow coming into the building and having to be handcuffed and all this stuff that MJF is putting him through. What did you think about this match against the Butcher? Butcher went down to like 4 power bombs in a row, I think, or something like that. And, of course, MJF was up in the stands watching from his perch up there. What did you think of this?
You know, I had actually really dug how they didn't give Wardlow's theme music. They didn't give him, you know, they gave him his uniform or his wrestling gear, but man, just having him come out dead silence in those handcuffs with all the security and police around him. That was a hell of a visual.
Yeah.
They're building Wardlow up to be a fucking beast, and I'm digging it. If there's one person on the AEW roster, you know, excluding Brian Cage because of everything that's going on with that right now, time will tell where that goes. But if you want to have one beast on your roster that you can have as a babyface or maybe anti-hero beast, Wardlow's your guy all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What they're doing with Wardlow and building him up is fantastic.
Also, just real quick to piggyback off that, the squash match, you know, what they're building up right now between him and Lance Archer, they're making it seem like that's going to be King Kong versus Godzilla. So, yeah, let's see it, man. Let's see it.
Yeah, for sure. But to your point about the way they did the entrance with all the security and the handcuffs, people don't realize, people think it was for protection, but that was the original idea with Goldberg's entrance. It wasn't Goldberg needs protection. It was, no, we need to protect all these people from Goldberg. You know, that was the idea, and people just kind of looked at it the wrong way and assumed, why does a babyface need a security detail to protect him? No, it's because he's such a monster and he's so uncontrollable. The original idea behind it, you know, we got to control him until we let him loose in the ring. So,
and who would have thought that the only thing missing to get that Goldberg gimmick just that one step over was just by tossing a pair of handcuffs on him every week?
Instead of giving him a taser to the chest.
Oh. Rest in peace.
All right, so after that we had Kyle O'Reilly versus Jungle Boy in the Owen Hart tournament qualifier match. Kyle O'Reilly would go over Jungle Boy to qualify for the Owen Hart tournament. What did you think of this match?
You know, it was a nice little match. It's obviously building up to something bigger. Regardless of who it builds up to be big as, I mean, you know, just put the titles on FTR already. In my opinion, Jungle Express is getting that Kenny Omega go away heat currently, where it's just kind of like, we see you on our TVs weekly, but what are you actually doing for the brand kind of deal?
Right.
Red Dragon just kind of seems like, and I hate to say this, and, you know, Bobby, you can have your I told you so moment with this. But at this point, it seemed like Adam Cole was kind of slacking on something in AEW, and they just thought, you know, well, the Undisputed Era was really popular in NXT, right? I think they're free agents.
I mean, at this point, every time I look at Adam Cole, he looks like a 10-year-old boy. Like I just, he doesn't look good at all. It's to say nothing. That's to say nothing about his in-ring ability. It's just he doesn't have a look at all right now.
That Triple H diet plan is really something, huh? How much D-ball do you think it is?
Oh goodness. All right, so after that, Hook made his Dynamite debut against Anthony Henry. I think this is just a jobber. I've never heard of this guy. I think this is just a local guy. Of course, Hook would go over pretty quickly here with the Taz mission. Despite Danhausen coming out and giving him the curse. So Danhausen, fed up, jumped into the ring and said, no, we're going to fight. If the curse isn't going to work, we're going to fight. and then started to realize, oh, wait a minute, what did I just say? What did I just get myself into? This is going to be, if this happens, I've loved everything I've seen of Danhausen outside of the ring and off of wrestling TV. Love the guy. Love everything he does. I've never watched his work in the ring, in Ring of Honor, or anywhere else. So there's that part of me, and especially with Hook, who's, my God, does this guy have a great look, and is he over, and he's serious. He doesn't talk. He just goes to the ring, he kicks your ass. He eats his potato chips, apparently, and that's it. You know, with his crazy giant hair. But he's got a look, and he's over, and he's serious. And that, now you're kind of pairing him with this goofball in this comedy gimmick. You know me. This makes me cringe a little bit, but at the same time, I love Danhausen so much outside of wrestling that I'm interested in. And of course, this would go into Rampage too. What do you think about this?
Well, first off, Hook didn't talk. We'll get into that with Rampage.
Yeah.
Secondly, I mean, it is what it is. You know, there's going to be some fuckery from probably the best friends in that match. They're not going to let Hook completely destroy Danhausen. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. There is a reason why Danhausen has won the hearts and minds of people like Chris Jericho, like John Cena. Because he, for as entertaining as his gimmick is as a whole, the dude can actually, he's got some gas in the ring. So
and I wouldn't deny that. I'm sure he does. It's just the gimmick and the character around him, the comedy of it is just, it's not my cup of tea in wrestling per se, even though he's very good at it. And he pops me despite myself.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where this is going to go because on one hand, I don't want them to completely bury Danhausen because there's so much there that they can actually do with him. But at the same time, it's not time to make Hook look terrible. As far as Hook's opponent this week, he's not some jobber guy necessarily. He's wrestled a few matches on Dark here and there.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, he had a winning record on Dark coming into this.
Okay.
But yeah, man, it just first Hook is just his dad, what his dad could have been if he was just a couple inches taller. With that red rum submission, you know, and again, Hook, one of those guys like a Sammy Guevara, you add some weight to him, give him a little bit more muscle mass going. But then you also forget, though, I think Hook's only like 19.
Yeah, he's insanely young.
He's got time
still
to develop.
Great. Yeah. We'll move on from there. Up next, we had another Owen Hart tournament qualifying match. This one on the women's side. Britt Baker defeated Danielle. I can't read my writing. Danielle Kamala, I believe was her name. Who I'd never heard of before. What do you think of this match? Oh, yeah, there it is. Danielle Kamala.
First and foremost, I think the star of this match was Najee Harris on the outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pat Farrier and Najee Harris both accompanied Britt Baker to the ring for this match. And goddamn if them black and yellow boys on the outside did not steal the show. Of course, you know, this being in Pittsburgh, Britt Baker's hometown, she was going to go over. They were hyping up Kamala on the outside, though. Like, she's like going to be like a big thing for AEW. They were talking about her background. She kind of reminds me of Carmella with her experience. I believe she danced for the Phoenix Suns. Carmella was a Lakers girl. So they were really hyping her up. But, of course, you know, again, being in Pittsburgh, Britt Baker was going to go over. I have no problem with Britt Baker going over. Frankly, I think the women's division's been a little flat without Britt Baker. So we're getting back into where we're supposed to be. There is center and balance in the AEW women's roster again.
All right. And after that, they quickly announced, I almost missed it, even though it's such a big deal, for next week on Dynamite, a big match here, another qualifying match for the Owen Hart tournament, Dax versus Cash. What do you think about this next week on Dynamite?
Even some of the greatest tag teams in history had to go one-on-one at some point. And I love the way, if you follow either Dax or Cash on any social media, A, the hype that they're building this match up to,
Mm-hmm.
and B, how they are driving home the point. This is the first time, this is the last time, and this is the only time you will see FTR in a match against each other. And I love how they're keeping that energy, and I hope they keep it.
Me too. I agree completely. And I'm crazy looking forward to that match. They got me there. And then they went to the main event. Darby Allin versus Andrade El Idolo in a coffin match. And my only note that I wrote down for this match was fucking Sting. But let's talk about this match a little bit. I missed a lot of the beginning of the match. Got into it towards the end. Right about the time when, in fact, they were fighting in the crowd, and there's this guy in a backwards hat and a Sting mask that had a sign that said, "I'm here for Darby Allin." And he starts putting it in their faces, and the guy rips the sign in half, and classic Sting takes off the mask, the Sting mask, to realize it's actually Sting, and takes off the hat, and he goes to town. And of course, further on down the road, does another fucking dive off of the tunnel entranceway. This time not in the tables, but on the actual people, so even more dangerous in some respects. Of course, we would get to the end of the match, the finish of the match. There was the coffin. The lid of the coffin had thumbtacks or nails on it. But we would get to the finish where Darby Allin would go over and get Andrade in the coffin. What do you think about this match and how it went?
Well, some notes that I had written down for it were, first off, coffin botch. I don't know what the hell they were trying to go with, whether or not, I believe it was Andrade. No, it was Darby. He was trying to tear the lid off of the coffin.
No, it was Andrade. He kept trying to kick the lid off of it or something, and it just didn't work. I don't know what they were doing there. You're right.
Which God only knows what kind of fucking spot they were planning if they would have gotten the lid off.
Well, maybe because of those thumbtacks, I guess maybe they were thinking of some sort of spot where the lid was flat on the ground right onto those tacks. It's the only thing I can think of. And
the other thing I had jotted down for this was Sting has officially hit Terry Funk level of career. The high spots and everything like that.
I don't know if he's that crazy. He's not doing backflips onto the concrete, and getting completely missed. But, with no one there to catch him. But at least this is being done way more safe. But, yeah, I see where you're going with that, for sure.
Yeah, this match was a tale of two different Stings, wasn't it? What's old is new again, him doing the whole mask thing, but then him fucking suicide diving. Again, it's 63 years old. Calm down, AARP. Holy shit. Another thing that I had jotted down, and I completely whiffed on his name, but goddamn, that dude that's the mouthpiece for Andrade he's got some mass to him, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
Was not expecting that. Honestly, I hate a match where there's too many interferences, regardless of a staple or faction or whatever it is. But that match needed all those interferences, in my opinion. And
that's what this whole feud and everything back and forth. That's what this has been. It's been about the groups fighting each other, and you have all these crazy, fighting into the crowd segments that they've been doing. And that's what this has been. That's what these matches are for, to give you that flavor.
Absolutely, and for a silly little gimmick match, especially one like a coffin match, this is getting dangerous territory where AEW is almost beating a dead horse with it at this point, because it feels like most of Darby Allin's big matches end up being a coffin match. But it still hooked me in, and I was drawing to my screen the entire time. It was awesome.
All right, that'll be the end of Dynamite, and we'll move on through Rampage pretty quickly here because I didn't watch a lot of it. You said it was a great show. I didn't even watch this first match. No, I did catch a second of it, I think, on YouTube. Eddie Kingston versus Daniel Garcia. Eddie Kingston would go over. Anything to say about that match?
I love how they're building up to another Chris Jericho Eddie Kingston match.
I didn't see at all the Lance Archer versus Serpentico. I didn't see that at all, nor did I see the Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Oh, those are interviews. Yeah, I didn't see the Lance Archer match at all.
Squash match. What you would expect out of a Lance Archer match, even though Serpentico is a contracted member of the AEW roster. They made him look absolutely unstoppable. They're really building the hype for that Wardlow match.
All right. This is, again, we were talking about Hook and how he finally spoke. It looks like he was about to do an interview when he comes around the corner, and then there's Danhausen dumped a bunch of potato chips on the floor, which that's what gets him to talk for the first time. But, Hook shoves Danhausen against the wall and says, "You wanted my attention, you got it." Didn't say much. And you know what? For me, it actually worked. As silly as the premise might have been, he talked for just a moment. He said one line and got out of there. And he didn't yell. He didn't scream. It was a very forceful, "You wanted my attention? You got it." And then Danhausen looked, "Oh, fuck, what did I do?" So
I actually had 2 notes written down about this segment. The first note was I'm a stickler for the way things are shot. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand what the fuck they were doing with this walking interview segment where they were going to hit a corner and make Hook shoulder check the corner. But oddly enough, for just like his devil may care, I don't give a fuck attitude, it kind of worked,
right?
Which pissed me off that I liked it. And the second thing that I wrote down was somewhere on Reddit, there is now Hook and Danhausen fanfic. You're welcome. Good luck not imagining that tonight.
Imagining it? Now you mention it, I got to go look it up. We'll move on from there. Speaking of fanfic, I want to see Jade Cargill defended her TBS title against Marina Shafir. A couple of green women here, though Jade Cargill's been fantastic. Marina Shafir, the last match I saw was could have gone better, but wasn't as bad as I think some people would have led me to believe beforehand. What do you think of this match and Jade Cargill going over on Marina Shafir, who I think could be a star? She's got a look.
Yeah, keep working with both of these girls. Fuck, dude. You got 2 stars waiting in the waiting right behind Britt Baker. If you could just get these women up to where they need to be. Jade Cargill, perfect example. She hit the best Jaded I think I've seen her hit so far in AEW. Marina Shafir, obviously still green, but looked like she took what she did last week and tried to tweak and improve on some things. Give me another 6-7 months. I want to see this match.
It was
again.
Obviously they were green, but I have, you get 2 green people in the ring. You have the potential for some bad things to happen. This was not a bad match by any stretch, in my opinion. Obviously, Jade Cargill went over as she should here, though I like to see Marina Shafir continue to grow, and I think she could be the next Jade Cargill. I really do. After that, we have the main event. Another Owen Hart tournament qualifying match. Adam Cole would go over Tomohiro Ishii, who I've never seen before because I don't watch New Japan. And I only saw the last 2 minutes of this match. What do you think of this match? I know you loved it.
Well, first, Ishii is stiffer than a metal rod. Just some of the punches he throws and the kicks. My God, the headaches that Adam Cole must have been feeling the next day.
Well, then I got to go back and watch it to see how Adam Cole didn't break in half. He's so tiny. But go ahead.
The one thing that's intriguing me, and I didn't bring this up when we were talking about Dynamite, Adam Cole was accompanied by Jay White.
Yeah.
The part where I'm kind of like, continuity motherfuckers. The way the Elite, granted Adam Cole was in NXT before this happened, but the way the Elite was kicked out of Bullet Club and they never really got any revenge for that, but now we're all good in the hood. It's confusing, but I love it because I will say I'm a mark for Bullet Club because, you know.
And I mean, hey, old storylines like that, whatever. NWO and Sting tagged, you know, they were on the same side for WrestleMania, so what does it matter? But yeah, no, it would be nice, I'm sure, for you as a longtime Bullet Club fan and follower to see some of those loose ends tied up, perhaps more. But it is what it is, and that does it for this week in wrestling on TV. Some pretty good stuff there this week in wrestling, I think. A good week of wrestling, even though you didn't like SmackDown all that much. We will move on from here to... Get back to me. We'll move on to the very next topic here. We got Windham Rotunda making some cryptic tweets, and we could go over him here for a minute. But I want to know if these tweets mean anything to you, if you think it means anything for his future, or if it's just him tweeting stuff online. So we'll go here. He tweeted first, I do think it's true that he who makes a beast of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man. And then he tweeted just but. And then he tweeted, but if you become the machine, you don't have to feel it all. Hashtag what if, with this very interesting sketch here. And one last tweet, to be sentient. And he changed his name to just this red circle. And of course, he has changed his profile picture to another interesting sketch here. So what do you think of these tweets? Do you think there's any meaning behind them? Or is it just kind of the former Bray Wyatt ruffling some feathers for his own amusement?
A red circle. The circle is completion. He's going back to WWE, confirmed. Or there's option number 2, which I'm really keen of. If you think about what he said there, man who makes a beast of himself takes away the pain of being a man. Avenged Sevenfold, you know, you got the drawing kind of very Tool-ish. So Windham Rotunda starting an Avenged Sevenfold / Tool tribute band, also confirmed. The thing is with wrestling media, wrestling fans, we tend to nitpick and take things for what they're worth, or at face value, I should say. We forget when Rotunda spent the entire winter filming a horror film. This could just be promotion for the horror film. Again, with his hashtag what if, there are so many variables that could be that I think that we're just all overlooking the fact that at this point, he's very obviously going to control your narrative.
Yeah, I have no idea what he could be doing here. I don't feel it's just nothing. I think he's got an idea of what's coming next for himself. Certainly some very interesting sketches here. We all know Wyndham's one hell of a creative guy. And I'm looking forward. Whatever it is he's got coming next, I'm looking forward to it. We haven't seen him in wrestling at all since WrestleMania 37, so it's been well over a year at this point.
Oh, no. We have recently, which is why I ended Control Your Narrative, CYN, the promotion that was started by EC3 and Adam Shearer. A picture surfaced over the weekend of the 3 of them at a CYN show, all wearing CYN shirts.
I saw the picture, yeah, but he hasn't actually done anything in the ring as far as I'm aware.
But they had their little Brody tribute off to the side, which I thought was cool. But
right, they all had their like the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Yep. They had their finger, kind of a tribute to the 4 Horsemen that we know in wrestling, but it was down, and it was obviously in reference to Brody Lee. Yeah.
So, in my opinion, for as much as I want to see what he could do in AEW with a Malachi Black with 0 restrictions, or what he could do with a Brody King. What he could do with Dr. Luther. I don't know if you've seen too much of him. He's not really on AEW television too much, but he's one of those kind of horrorcore deathmatch wrestlers. I would love to see what he could do with those guys, especially Malachi Black without the handcuffs of WWE. I would also like to see him go back to WWE at this point. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be settling for going to actually CYN, which nothing against those guys. I mean, if you want to sell some workout supplements, they got you there, but their product as of right now does nothing for me. So we'll see.
We'll see. All right. We'll move on to the next topic there. Bret Hart. The AEW officials apparently believe, after there's been some rumors and some talk about Bret Hart coming in to manage FTR, apparently AEW officials now believe Bret Hart has signed a deal of some sort, a lucrative Legends deal with the WWE. What do you think of these rumors? Are they true? Do you think they're true?
At the end of the day, the best thing in anything professional wrestling will ever do for me is something that indirectly involves this, and it pops me. The big pop I got out of this was once the news broke, Mick Foley took to Twitter and asked FTR to @ Vince McMahon, saying that Mick Foley was going to manage them at an indie show, to which I believe it was Dax kindly obliged.
Yeah.
So let's see if Mick Foley can get that Legends contract back. Yeah, for as much shit as everybody gives AEW for buying up all the ex-WWE talent once their contracts get released, WWE has a very bad habit of keeping Legends contracted wrestlers. Not even that they're ever going to appear on TV just to use their likeness in video games and such. In my opinion, you can have a Legends contract and let these guys work elsewhere if you don't have anything for them.
Well, and that's generally it. Like, that's why, and you'll see, I'll bring it up right here, Bret Hart will be managing FTR against Brian Pillman and Brock Anderson, just not at an AEW show, even though they're all AEW talent. It's going to be at an independent show in Massachusetts, because they can... with the Legends deal, they can still do independent shows. They just can't go on a major... just can't sign with a major company.
That was the way I understood it as well. Kind of weird how the WWE Legends contracts are more what people want their main roster contracts to be like.
Now, there is an interesting wrinkle to this. Jake Roberts is also currently under a WWE Legends deal, but it's an older one, I think, and that's why he's still, like, he just appeared on AEW TV this week. But he's a part of a WWE licensing deal still under a Legends contract, because he was in 2K22, and they still have other Jake Roberts stuff coming out. I don't know if there's anything on WWE Shop at the moment, but there isn't, at least an older version before AEW came out and was a thing, because there was whatever, go do whatever, but we still have your licensing deal. We still own your character to a degree, but you can go ahead and make these other shots. But now there's another bigger company. I'm sure they amended the Legends deal here with Bret Hart specifically so that he couldn't be on another nationally televised program for wrestling.
WWE confirmed.
But yeah, it's interesting because you've got licensing and product for Jake the Snake coming from two companies right now. All right, we will move on from there to our quick jab segment. We got a few things to talk about here. The first thing I wanted to bring up was you kind of made a joke at the beginning of the show, but we've got this interesting little shirt here, and it made me think about their policy. This shirt came out obviously a couple of days ago on 420. Randy Orton said they had the push to really get this shirt out. It's a Stone Cold, an Austin 316 style shirt. It says RK Bro 420, and on the back it says I just smoked your ass. Neat little shirt. I'm not so much of a 420 guy, but I got a lot of friends that are. But it seems as if the WWE has very quietly loosened some of their wellness policy when it comes to marijuana specifically. There hasn't been any sort of fine or suspension, even though they still technically test for it. And even though on WWE Corporate's website, it still lists marijuana in their wellness policy. Apparently, in fact, they've kind of quietly taken that out of the wellness policy, which is a good thing, I think. What do you think about this?
Well, first things first, I have to correct you a little bit. RVD 420 says I just smoked your ass was a t-shirt way back in the day. And when I first saw this, the first thing I thought about was, you have RVD begging to come back for the Royal Rumble. There's obvious health concerns with him and his CTE about why you turned him down, but you could have at least let him appear at a Mania. I mean, you did it to Mick Foley for how many years? And now you're going to go ahead and rip off his T-shirt design. And then on top of that,
was that a WWE T-shirt design, or was that his own
If I'm not mistaken, it was an ECW design that they let the copyright fall out through that TNA then had the rights to. But then you think like how many thousands of dollars over the years has Rob Van Dam been out of because of their stupid marijuana policy. Well known that he dropped the WWE Championship for the simple fact that him and Sabu got caught traveling cross country together while smoking a doobie. Now it's also very well known Randy Orton's the kind of guy that just pays the fines and he gets to go about his way. He mentioned that on the Edge and Christian podcast back in the day. Even further back when Jericho left WWE to go tour with Fozzy, I recall he did an interview with Bubba the Love Sponge, who was a Tampa radio DJ who was nationally syndicated. You might remember him as Hulk Hogan's fat sack of shit friend from TNA back in the day. Not a big fan of that dude personally.
No.
Anywho, Chris Jericho even went on that show and said he admitted to paying $25,000 a year to have WWE look the other way on that end of his testing. I'm sure for years there's been loopholes to get around the THC testing. Lord knows that there was loopholes for Brock Lesnar when he went back to UFC 200 and got busted for everything under the sun. I'm just happy that we're kind of evolving in this day and age past the more kind of draconian thought processes that we had about THC.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with that. The next thing to talk about with our quick jabs here is Scott Steiner. Obviously, him and his brother Rick just got inducted into the Hall of Fame as the Steiner brothers last month, or earlier this month, excuse me. But that was a bit of a surprise when it was announced because of Scott Steiner's obvious heat with the company, with Vince McMahon, and especially with Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H. But it seems everything's all good now. This picture came out here of at the Hall of Fame ceremony, Scott Steiner standing right next to Triple H, and of course right next to Vince McMahon there. And Scott Steiner has come out and said, you just got to let that shit go. Whatever happened, we're all older now. It's time to let that shit go. And so what do you think about this? And what do you think of this picture?
First off, that picture is absolutely powerful. You can't help but notice Scott Hall being missing because of him being the glue that would have, I could see Scott Hall being a reasoning behind this burying of the hatchet. Scott Hall being in the NWO, Scott Hall also being a notorious member of the Clique.
Right.
But, between Triple H's hard events, the passing of Scott Hall, there's a lot of things in your life when all these things happen around the same time that kind of force you as a man to kind of look past certain aspects of shit.
Yeah.
Let the past be in the past and move on as adults. And I'm happy they're able to do it now. Man, I wish they could have done it back in 2003. They could have made some serious money with the feud that they were building up with. But better late than never.
All right, the next quick jab to talk about here is Randy Orton is going to be celebrating his 20th anniversary here in a couple of days, I believe, being in the WWE on the main roster in the locker room. What do you think of Randy Orton hitting 20 years?
if you go to my MySpace page, you will see a picture of me in a locker room wearing a dress shirt, jeans, and the front of my hair spiked up like Randy Orton circa Evolution debut. Yeah, I was marking out for wrestling even in high school. The thing about it is, though, is 20 years is 20 years, and that shit doesn't seem so much like it. But let me tell you, 20 years goes by quick. And, man, just what a hell of a career.
Absolutely.
What more of a career can he have left? Because it seems like that gas tank on him's not going anywhere. He said himself recently with the WrestleMania presser that he's heading into the most fun stage that he's had with his career in a very long time.
I agree. I think that's why RK Bro is not going to break up anytime soon. I think this has sort of given him a fresh set of legs here. Like he looks like he's having more fun. You know, there were times in the past where it looked like he was just going through the motions and he was kind of bored and didn't care all that much. And even then, a bored Randy Orton is still often in the ring, better and smoother than 90% of the rest of the locker room. But right now he's looking like he's having a blast. He's excited. You can see him when he's cheering on Riddle from the apron or from the outside. He's into it and he's demonstrative. So yeah, I think, you know, if he can keep that mindset, he's got probably another 10 years in him. We'll see. All right, and one more thing I wanted to talk about here in our quick jab segment. We brought it up a little bit ago. Roman Reigns looks like he definitely will have a match at WrestleMania Backlash, though we don't exactly know his opponent yet. Any idea who his opponent might be for Backlash?
Well, not to steal your thunder here, but like we discussed before we went live, neither of us knew the UK loop was coming up. Got to make the UK fans happy. Drew McIntyre's still strong enough name to throw in a main event scene. Why not Drew McIntyre?
Well, especially overseas. Right.
Especially overseas. Going forward, though, my God, let's really think about who WWE has actually built up to be in a main event scene. This whole Edge thing, eventually, once it gets off the ground, Edge could be a contender. But for now, he has to build a faction. AJ Styles, he's always a main event guy, just signed a new lucrative contract with WWE. He can still go. He could be. Seth, we've seen about 800 times at this point. Brock's enjoying some time in Canada. I'm not even going to say Cody because we know it's coming eventually, but I mean, really,
it's not time yet.
Yeah, where can WWE go with this?
Well,
we haven't seen a million times.
Here's my thought process on this. I think before you get to Cody and Roman, we will do Drew and Roman. I don't think that will be at Backlash though. You'll have Drew and Roman will main event these events in the UK and in France through the starting next week, but that's not on TV. I think on TV you'll start to build to something else. It doesn't have to be a special match. You just get Roman Reigns on the card, and that's going to sell some tickets and get some views on Peacock. It doesn't matter who he's up against. I think I mentioned to you when we started to talk about this very briefly beforehand. Last year at Backlash, it was Cesaro. And as much as we all love Cesaro, he wasn't exactly a main event guy either, the way WWE presented him. So my thought here would be there's a guy right now who is in the tag team scene. He's a former world champion. His tag team partner got hurt at WrestleMania. He is someone you could come in, you could build a little program with over the next 2 or 3 weeks, next 3 weeks, leading up to a WrestleMania Backlash, and I think that would be Shinsuke Nakamura. He's not doing really much of anything right now.
It could be Shinsuke. Another person I just thought of.
Because I don't think you do McIntyre yet. I think you build up to that. WWE later on has a big pay-per-view in the UK at a stadium show. I think that's when you do Drew.
Oh, that's right.
That's when you do McIntyre and Roman as a pay-per-view main event.
Another story that they could build real quick. There's still a lot of people out there that feel like Kofi didn't get his comeuppance when it came to being a WWE champion. There you go. Yeah. They obviously have nothing going on with him in New Day right now. Kofi's still a guy who can go. Let's see what happens with that, maybe.
Kofi or even Xavier Woods, your King of the Ring. Now, obviously, I think the New Day's still in this program with Butch and Ridge and Sheamus. So I don't think you're going to segue there the next couple of weeks. The only guy I see really that I can think of is Shinsuke, who's not doing anything right now.
We aren't going anywhere there right now. But to that point, though, and I can't believe I didn't think of Xavier Woods. Great look. Yeah. Built like a shit brick house. You know, sometimes you forget about that. Yeah. Has longevity. There's another thing about him, though, that I always overlook. Vince McMahon is a media whore. If he can get that WWE championship on other television programs, he's going to do it. And I don't know if you know this or not, Xavier Woods is the new host of Attack of the Show.
Yeah.
On G4. So you're going to get it on Attack of the Show. You're going to get it on Up, Up, Down, Down. There's that Nick Arcade rumor that got fired up again. So I can see them pulling the trigger on him just for those things.
On a match, maybe, but I think the guy to bring down Roman will be Cody. And I don't think that's not until SummerSlam or Survivor Series at the earliest.
No. You're absolutely right. But, I mean, imagine where Roman's playing such mind games with Xavier Woods to take him off his game that he's showing up to his jobs outside of WWE. Yeah. I can totally see that being a deciding factor leading up to a pay-per-view.
Sure, but that would be at a pay-per-view. I don't think it would be this pay-per-view because you still got Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston doing what they're doing with Butch and all that stuff. So for WrestleMania Backlash specifically, there's not a whole lot of choices I see with people that aren't. You brought up Edge and you brought up AJ Styles. They're in a program together right now still. So everyone's already kind of spoken for. Except for Shinsuke, I think. So
no, yeah, you do have Shinsuke. Yeah, I think that's about it. Unless you're going to get
Drew is not. Maybe you could do Drew, because you're right. He's not. I don't think he's in any other program either right now. That I think of it, because he's moved past the Happy Corbin Madcap Moss thing. They're feuding with each other. So, he's with this. He's doing the Sami Zayn thing. We just tried to put the lumberjack match out of our minds. But
you could give it to Kevin Owens as a way to not only expand the storyline with Seth and Cody, but also expand his storyline currently with Ezekiel, because I don't want to call him Elias. I forgot what it was.
Yeah, true. But I just think Shinsuke makes the most sense right now. For Backlash, you can make Roman look strong. You still got a couple of weeks. You don't need to build it up big. It's just putting Roman on the card. That's all you need. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the Buckle Bomb Show. Any last words, Tony?
Qualified human coming soon.
Yeah, be on the lookout for that. It should be coming here at the middle to end of May, hopefully. We're working hard on that. All right. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of everything we talked about down below. And we'll see you next week. Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, live life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, the change, my mind, the lane. The only way to win in life. I never miss that fact. Taking big,